FASB ASU 2020-01 by Grant Huffman and Brandon Vassallo. What is it? The FASB Accounting Standards Update 2020-01 is a simplification of the process that companies should use regarding investments into equity securities, especially when the investments move between accounting methods. It clarifies when to switch from fair value to equity method, and it clarifies how to handle forward contracts and options to purchase equity securities. Amendments to ASC Topic 321 clarified guidance on the measurement alternative. It added language to state that if an investor gains significant influence over an investee, it should discontinue the measurement alternative prospectively and apply Topic 323. Amendment to ASC Topic 323 gave guidance on when an equity investment accounted for under the measurement alternative 321 becomes subject to the equity method. The investor does not remeasure the investment. It rather carries forward the existing amount as the initial cost basis under the equity method. A clarification that a forward contract or option to purchase an equity method investment does not qualify for equity method accounting until the investment is actually acquired. Amendments to 815 derivatives and hedging clarified that a derivative instrument like forwards or options to acquire an equity method investment does not trigger equity method accounting on their own. Rather, equity method begins only after the investor attains significant influence and ownership, not at the contract day.
When will this be implemented? The effective dates for the public business entities for fiscal years are going to begin after December 15th, 2020. And for all other entities, the effective date will be for the fiscal years beginning after December 15th, 2021. It will be implemented with the prospective application transition. No restatement of prior periods is required. You do not need to reinvest or adjust. Previous equity method investments, fair value measurements made under the old guidance, or historical derivative evaluations related to equity method determination. Why was this implemented? The change happened because real-world application of the prior standards exposed gaps and inconsistencies, especially during transitions between investment types and when using derivative instruments. FASB issued ASU 2020-01 to make the rules clearer, more practical, and more internally consistent. What was ASU 2016-01? This ruling allowed for equity securities without a readily determinable fair value to be measured using a measurement alternative. What were the problems with ASU 2016-01 that caused the need for 2020-01? The first is going to be this amendment introduced the measurement alternative for equity investments without readily determinable fair values. The impact of this was diversity in practice and remeasurement confusion. The second problem was requiring all changes in fair value of equity securities to be recorded in net, which increased volatility in earnings. The measurement alternative was meant to be a practical option for private investments, but it created complexities, which created burdensome and inconsistent effects when applied. ASU 2016-01 also didn't clearly explain whether forwards or options to buy equity securities should be considered when evaluating if a company has or will have significant influence under the equity method. This created confusion about significant influence in equity method. Finally, without clear transition and interaction guidance, auditors and preparers had differing views, which created inconsistent application and comparability problems.
Who will this affect? FASB ASU 2020-01 will affect groups of entities and professionals who are involved in investment accounting. Some of the entities affected included companies with equity investments in private companies, companies that may potentially gain significant influence over investees, venture capital, private equity, and investment firms, companies involved in joint ventures, entities with derivative and contracts on equity securities.
We also looked at 3 publicly traded companies that will be affected by this. BGC Partners Incorporated. They are a global brokerage and financial technology firm. BGC Partners holds various equity investments and derivative instruments, making it directly affected by ASU 2020-01. For them, this clarified accounting for equity investments and derivatives. The second company we looked at was South Jersey Industries Incorporated. As an energy service holding company with investments in various ventures, SGI's accounting for equity method investments and related derivatives fall under the purview of ASU 2020-01. For them, this enhanced consistency in accounting for equity method investments. Finally, we looked at Stratasys Ltd. As a manufacturer of 3D printing equipment and materials, they hold various equity investments, making it relevant to assess the impact of this. For them, there was no significant impact that was observed, likely minimal effect. For the first 2, they both adopted the method with a prospective approach. The last did not adopt the method. The last slide we're going to look at is limitations and updates. The first limitation we see is that even after clarifications, applying the measurement alternative requires subjective judgment about observable price changes. The suggestion we have is to provide more examples and decision trees to help businesses understand these things better. The second limitation is instruments that combine debt, equity, and derivative features are still hard to classify cleanly under the current codification. The suggestion we had here was to issue targeted guidance for hybrid investment types. The third was current rules still require all fair value changes in equity investments to flow through net income, which increases volatility and reduces the usefulness of earnings as a performance measure. For this, we suggest to add permanent limited OCI used for certain equity holdings. The next one was, while the codification is principle-based, some industries encounter unique investment structures that aren't well covered in the current guidance. For this, we suggest publish industry addendums with illustrative cases. Finally, many private or non-public companies struggle to understand and implement these standards due to limited access to training, illustrative examples, and affordable guidance. Our final suggestion here is to expand outreach and training for SMEs.